What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved comebacks collides with a question that nobody saw coming? When an interview that was supposed to celebrate triumph turns into something nobody could have predicted? Well, buckle up, because what went down between Brendan Fraser and Kelly Clarkson on her show left the entire studio in absolute shock. Before we dive into this wild story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think about what you're about to hear. Trust me, you're going to have opinions. So picture this. Brendan Fraser walks onto the Kelly Clarkson show set to massive applause. The audience is on their feet. This is the guy who vanished from Hollywood for years, dealt with personal struggles that would break most people, and then came roaring back with a performance that earned him an Academy Award. The energy in that studio was electric. Kelly's smiling ear to ear, the crowd's going wild, and Brendan's doing his signature humble wave. That genuine smile that reminds everyone why we fell in love with him in the first place. Kelly starts off exactly how you'd expect. She's gushing about his Oscar win, talking about how incredible his performance was, how much it moved her to tears. Brendan's gracious about it, deflecting praise like he always does, talking about the cast and crew, the director, everyone but himself. It's classic Brendan Fraser, right? The guy who's genuinely uncomfortable with being the center of attention, despite being, the center of attention. You have no idea how much your story has inspired people, Kelly says, leaning forward with that authentic emotion she's known for. I mean, to watch you disappear and then come back stronger than ever. It's like a real-life hero's journey. Brendan chuckles, a little uncomfortable. I don't know about hero's journey. I just kept showing up, kept working. That's all any of us can do, right? The audience eats it up. There's applause. There's that collective awe from the crowd. Everything is going perfectly. Kelly transitions into talking about his earlier films, the ones that made him a household name. She brings up his action roles, his comedy chops. And Brendan's relaxing into it, sharing funny behind-the-scenes stories that have the audience cracking up. You know what I loved about those movies? Kelly says. You brought such heart to characters that could have just been, action guy punches things. But you made us care. You made us feel something. Well, that was always the goal, Brendan replies. If you can't find the humanity in a character, what's the point? Even if you're fighting mummies or swinging through the jungle, there's got to be something real there. The chemistry is great. Kelly's in her element. Brendan's comfortable, and the interview is flowing beautifully. She asks him about his favorite moments on set, and he tells this hilarious story about a stunt gone wrong that has everyone doubled over laughing. The energy is peak daytime television, exactly what these shows are made for. But then, Kelly shifts gears. You can see it in her face, this slight change in her expression. She's got that look that talk show hosts get when they're about to dig a little deeper, go somewhere more personal. And that's when things start to turn. Can I ask you something that I think a lot of people wonder about? Kelly says, her tone becoming more serious. Your break from Hollywood, the years you were gone, there's been a lot of speculation about what really happened. A lot of rumors, a lot of theories. Do you feel ready to talk about that time in your life? You can see Brendan's shoulders tense just slightly. His smile doesn't quite reach his eyes anymore. I've talked about it some, he says carefully. It was a difficult period. Personal stuff, health stuff, just life happening all at once. Right? And you've been so brave to share what you have shared, Kelly continues. But I guess what people really want to know is, do you feel like Hollywood failed you? Like the industry that made you a star just dropped you when things got hard? The audience goes quiet. This is no longer the fun, feel-good interview it was 30 seconds ago. Brendan shifts in his seat, and you can see him measuring his words. I think the industry is complicated, he says slowly. There's a lot of factors that go into why someone works or doesn't work. I don't think it's as simple as Hollywood failing anyone. It's a business, and businesses make decisions. Kelly nods, but she's not letting it go. But you've hinted before about experiences that were traumatic, situations that affected you deeply. Don't you think there's a conversation to be had about how the industry treats people, especially when they're vulnerable? Of course, there's a conversation to be had. Brendan agrees, but his voice has an edge now. But I'm not sure this is the place for it, or if I'm the person who should be leading that conversation right now. I came here to talk about moving forward, about the work. And we absolutely want to celebrate that, Kelly says quickly. But isn't part of moving forward acknowledging what held you back? Isn't that part of the healing process? The tension in the studio is palpable now. The audience doesn't know whether to clap supportively or sit in uncomfortable silence. Brendan's jaw tightens, and when he speaks again, his voice is measured but firm. Kelly, with all due respect, you don't get to decide what my healing process looks like. The words hang in the air like a thunderclap. Kelly blinks, clearly not expecting that kind of pushback. The audience shifts uncomfortably. This is not how these interviews typically go. You can see Kelly trying to recover, that professional smile flickering back onto her face. But there's a tension now that wasn't there before. No, of course not, Kelly says, her voice softer now. I didn't mean to overstep. I just thought, given how open you've been in other interviews about your struggles, that maybe you'd want to share more of that journey with our audience. They're rooting for you, Brendan. They want to understand. Brendan takes a deep breath, and you can see him trying to rein it in, trying to be diplomatic. I appreciate that, I do. But there's a difference between sharing on my own terms and being pushed to relive painful experiences for entertainment value. Entertainment value. Kelly's voice rises slightly, and now she's the one who sounds defensive. That's not what this is. This show is about real conversations, about connecting with people on a human level. Is it? Brendan asks, and there's a challenge in his voice, now, because from where I'm sitting, it feels like you're trying to get me to break down on camera. Trying to get that viral moment where the broken actor finally cracks and gives you the tears and the trauma dump that'll get shared across social media. The audience gasps. Literally, gasps. This is not scripted banter. This is real tension, real conflict happening in real time. Kelly's face flushes, and you can see her producer off to the side making frantic hand gestures, probably signaling to go to commercial. But Kelly's not backing down. That is absolutely not what I'm trying to do, she says firmly. I have been nothing but supportive of you and your comeback. I celebrated your win. I've said publicly how much I admire you. So for you to sit here and accuse me of exploitation is not only unfair, it's insulting. You want to talk about unfair? Brendan leans forward now, his voice controlled but intense. What's unfair is inviting someone on your show under the pretense of celebration and then ambushing them with questions about the worst period of their life. What's unfair is acting like you have the right to someone's pain just because they're a public figure. Kelly shakes her head. I wasn't ambushing you. These are questions that have been asked in every interview you've done recently. You've talked about this stuff on podcasts, in print interviews, even at awards shows. So why is it suddenly off limits now? Because context matters, Brendan says, his voice rising. Because I get to decide when and where and how much I share. And just because I've talked about something before doesn't mean I owe everyone an unlimited access pass to my trauma. Nobody's saying you owe anyone anything, Kelly counters. But you have to understand, when you put yourself out there, when you share parts of your story, people are going to have questions. That's just how this works. You know that. I do know that. Brendan agrees. But there's a way to ask those questions with sensitivity and respect. There's a way to give someone an out if they're uncomfortable. You didn't do that. You pushed. The tension is suffocating now. The audience is completely silent, watching this unfold like they're witnessing something they shouldn't be seeing. Kelly takes a visible breath, trying to steady herself. Okay, she says, her voice tight. I hear you. If I pushed too hard, I apologize. That wasn't my intention. Can we just take a step back and maybe talk about something else? Talk about your upcoming projects, what you're excited about. But Brendan's shaking his head. See? That's the thing. You're trying to smooth it over now, trying to get the interview back on track like nothing happened. But something did happen. You crossed a line, and now you want to just move past it without actually acknowledging what you did. I literally just apologized, Kelly says, and there's frustration bleeding into her voice now. What more do you want from me? I want you to understand why what you did was wrong, Brendan says. I want you to get that you can't just poke at someone's wounds and then say, oops, sorry, when they call you out on it. That's not how this works. Kelly's jaw tightens. You know what, Brendan? I think you're being unfair. I think you came in here with your guard up, looking for a fight, because I have been nothing but respectful, nothing but supportive, and you're treating me like I'm some tabloid journalist trying to tear you down. That's not what I'm doing, Brendan insists. I'm setting a boundary. I'm saying this topic is off limits, and you're acting like that's some kind of personal attack against you. Because you're making it one, Kelly shoots back. You're sitting here accusing me of exploitation, of trying to get a viral moment, of not respecting you. Those are attacks. Those are judgments about my character and my intentions. Based on your actions, Brendan says, I'm responding to what you actually did, not making stuff up. What I did was ask a question, Kelly says, her voice getting louder. A question that, yes, was personal, but that's what this show is. We have real conversations here. We go deeper than just the surface stuff. That's the whole point. Going deeper doesn't mean you get to disregard someone's comfort level, Brendan argues. It doesn't mean you get to decide for someone else what they should be willing to discuss. The producer is definitely signaling for commercial now, but both Kelly and Brendan are locked in, neither one backing down. The audience is frozen, some people looking like they want to leave, others leaning forward like they can't look away. I gave you multiple opportunities to redirect, Kelly says. I asked if you felt ready to talk about it. I didn't demand anything. You're the one who's escalating this. Because you're not hearing me. Brendan's voice is strained now, like he's trying to keep his composure. You're so focused on defending yourself that you're not actually listening to what I'm saying. I am listening, Kelly insists. I'm listening to you attack me for doing my job. Your job shouldn't be to make your guests uncomfortable, Brendan says, and his voice has that dangerous quiet to it now, the kind that comes right before someone either walks away or says something they can't take back. Your job should be to create a space where people feel safe to be themselves, not interrogated. Kelly's eyes flash. Interrogated, are you serious right now? I asked you one question about a topic you've discussed publicly before, and you're acting like I put you under a spotlight and demanded a confession. Do you hear how dramatic that sounds? Dramatic, Brendan repeats, and there's something sharp in the way he says it, right? Because heaven forbid someone actually has feelings about being prodded to discuss their trauma. Heaven forbid someone expects to be treated with basic human decency on a talk show. Basic human decency. Kelly's voice rises again. I have shown you nothing but decency. I invited you here to celebrate you, to honor your comeback, to give you a platform to share your success. And this is how you respond, by attacking me in front of my audience. You keep saying that, Brendan says. You keep saying you invited me here to celebrate. But the second things got real. The second I tried to set a boundary, you made it about you, about how I'm being unfair to you, about how I'm attacking you. You're centering yourself in a conversation about my boundaries. Kelly throws her hands up. Because you are attacking me. You literally accused me of trying to exploit you for viral moments. How is that not an attack? It's an observation based on your behavior. Brendan says steadily. You asked a question, I said I wasn't comfortable, and instead of respecting that, you pushed it. You tried to justify it, tried to convince me I should be willing to discuss it. That's exploitation, Kelly. That's putting your show's needs above someone's well-being. That is not what I did. Kelly's voice cracks slightly, and you can see real emotion there now, whether it's anger or hurt or both. I backed off the second you said you weren't comfortable. I apologized. I tried to move on. You're the one who won't let it go. Because an apology without understanding is meaningless. Brendan says, you're sorry that I got upset, but you're not actually acknowledging that what you did was wrong. There's a difference. The audience is completely silent now, and the energy in the room has shifted from uncomfortable to almost unbearable. You can see people in the front row exchanging glances, unsure if they should be watching this. The cameras are still rolling, capturing every second of this meltdown. You want me to say I was wrong? Kelly asks, and her voice is shaking now. Fine. I was wrong to assume that because you've been open about your struggles before, you'd be open about them here. I was wrong to think we had the kind of rapport where we could have that conversation. I was wrong to believe that you came here in good faith. Is that what you want to hear? See, now you're being passive-aggressive, Brendan says, and he sounds exhausted now. Now, you're making it sound like I'm the problem for having boundaries. Like I'm the one who's being difficult. You are being difficult, Kelly exclaims. I apologized multiple times. I tried to move past this and you keep circling back to how wrong I am, how I crossed a line, how I don't understand. At what point is enough enough? At what point do we move forward? We don't, Brendan says simply. That's the point you're missing. Some things you can't just move past with a quick sorry and a subject change. Some lines, once you cross them, you can't uncross. Kelly stares at him. So what are you saying? You want to end the interview? I'm saying I don't think this is productive anymore. Brendan replies, I'm saying that we're clearly not on the same page about what happened here, and I don't see that changing. Oh, but we're in the middle of filming, Kelly says, and now there's a note of desperation in her voice. We have an audience, we have cameras, we have a show to finish. You can't just walk out. Actually, I can, Brendan says, and he shifts forward in his seat. That's the thing about boundaries. Kelly, I get to enforce them, even if it's inconvenient, even if it makes me look difficult or dramatic, or whatever else people are going to say about me after this. Brendan, please, Kelly says, and her voice softens. Let's just take a breath. Let's reset. We can edit this part out. We can start fresh. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. Just please don't walk out. But Brendan's already standing up, already reaching to unclip his microphone. I appreciate the offer, but no. I'm not going to sit here and pretend everything's fine when it's not. I'm not going to smile for the cameras and act like this didn't happen. So you're really going to do this? Kelly asks, and she's standing now too. You're really going to walk off my show in the middle of an interview and make me look like the villain here? I'm not trying to make you look like anything, Brendan says as he fumbles with the mic pack. I'm making a choice for myself about what I'm willing to tolerate. If that makes you look bad, maybe that's something to reflect on. The audience is fully invested now. Some people have their phones out despite the no-phone policy, trying to capture this moment. The producer has given up on trying to control the situation and is just watching with the same shocked expression as everyone else. This is unbelievable, Kelly says, and there are tears in her eyes now. Whether from anger or frustration or embarrassment. I have never had a guest treat me this way. Never. Maybe because most guests are too afraid to set boundaries with someone who has a platform. Brendan says, finally getting the mic off. Maybe because most people would rather swallow their discomfort than risk being labeled difficult or ungrateful. Or maybe, Kelly says, her voice sharp, most guests understand that interviews involve questions, even personal ones, and they handle it with grace instead of turning it into a whole production. Brendan pauses, looking at her for a long moment. You really don't get it, do you? You really think I'm the one in the wrong here? I think you're overreacting, Kelly says bluntly. I think you came in here with a chip on your shoulder. and you've been looking for a reason to make this about how Hollywood mistreats you, how everyone's out to exploit you. And I'm sorry you feel that way, I really am, but I'm not your punching bag. I never said you were, Brendan says quietly, but you're proving my point right now. You're making this about you, about how you're the victim in this situation, and that's exactly the problem. He sets the microphone on the chair and turns toward the side of the stage. Kelly takes a step forward, her hand reaching out like she's going to physically stop him. Brendan, wait, just wait. Can we please just talk about this like adults? He stops but doesn't turn around. His back is to the audience, to the cameras, to Kelly. We tried that, it didn't work. Because you wouldn't meet me halfway, Kelly says, and the desperation in her voice is palpable now. I apologized, I acknowledged your feelings, I offered to change direction. What more could I have done? Brendan turns back slowly, and his face is tired. Not angry anymore, just deeply, profoundly tired. You could have listened, really listened. Not just waited for your turn to defend yourself, but actually heard what I was saying about why I was uncomfortable. I did hear you, Kelly insists. I heard you say I pushed too hard, and I backed off. I heard you say you felt ambushed, and I said I was sorry. What part of that is not listening? The part where you kept defending why you asked the question in the first place, Brendan explains. The part where you kept bringing up that I've talked about it before, like that means I've forfeited the right to privacy. The part where every apology came with a justification that undermined the apology itself. Kelly's quiet for a moment, and you can see her processing this. The audience is hanging on every word, this raw, unfiltered moment playing out in front of them. When she speaks again, her voice is smaller. I wasn't trying to undermine anything. I was trying to explain my perspective. I know, Brendan says. But sometimes explaining your perspective comes across as excusing your behavior. Sometimes the right thing to do is just say I'm sorry. Full stop. No buts, no explanations, no justifications. Is that what you want? Kelly asks. You want me to just apologize without context, without you understanding where I was coming from. I want you to prioritize my feelings over your need to be understood. Brendan says simply. That's what setting a boundary looks like from the other side. It's uncomfortable. It means you don't get to explain yourself into the clear. You just have to sit with the fact that you hurt someone, even if you didn't mean to. The words land heavy. Kelly's eyes are shining with unshed tears, and her voice wavers when she speaks. Okay, I hear you. I'm sorry. No explanations, no justifications. I'm just sorry. Brendan nods slowly. I appreciate that. I do, but I still think I need to go. Why? Kelly's voice breaks. If I'm apologizing, if I'm finally giving you what you asked for, why are you still leaving? Because some damage can't be undone in 5 minutes. Brendan says gently. Because I'm not in a place where I can just flip a switch and be okay again. Because staying here, continuing this interview, would require me to perform being fine when I'm not. And I've spent too many years of my life performing emotions I didn't feel. Kelly wipes at her eyes. So that's it. This is how we end this. With you walking off and everyone thinking I'm some monster who attacked Brendan Fraser. People are going to think what they think, Brendan says. I can't control that, and neither can you. All I can control is my own actions, my own boundaries. And right now, I need to leave. This is going to ruin me. Kelly says quietly, almost to herself. This is going to be everywhere. Brendan Fraser walks off Kelly Clarkson show. Host makes actors so uncomfortable he has to leave. That's the story everyone's going to tell. Then maybe that's an opportunity to reflect on how these conversations happen. Brendan says, maybe instead of worrying about how you look, you think about what you could do differently next time. What the industry could do differently. Don't lecture me about the industry, Kelly says, and there's a flash of anger again. I've been in this business my whole life. I know how it works. Do you? Brendan asks. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've internalized a lot of the same toxic behaviors that made my life hell for years. This idea that celebrities owe the public access to their pain, that having a platform means giving up the right to privacy, that discomfort is just part of the job. That's not fair, Kelly says. I'm not the enemy here, Brendan. I'm not the people who hurt you. I never said you were, Brendan replies, but you're part of a system that enables that hurt. And until people like you, people with platforms and influence, start pushing back against that system instead of perpetuating it, nothing's going to change. Kelly's shaking her head. So now I'm responsible for fixing Hollywood, for changing an entire industry? No, Brendan says. You're responsible for your own actions, your own show, your own choices. And today, you made a choice that hurt someone. You can either learn from that or you can make me the bad guy for calling it out. That's up to you. He turns again, and this time he actually walks toward the exit. The audience doesn't know whether to applaud or stay silent. So they do this awkward hybrid thing where a few people start clapping uncertainly and then stop. Kelly stands there, frozen, watching him go. Brendan, she calls out one last time, and he pauses at the edge of the stage. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. Not because of how this looks, not because of what people will say, but because I genuinely didn't mean to hurt you. He looks back at her, and his expression softens just slightly. I believe you. But intention doesn't erase impact. Remember that. And then he's gone, disappearing behind the curtain, leaving Kelly standing alone on her stage with the studio full of shocked audience members and cameras that captured every single second. She stands there for what feels like an eternity, but is probably only 10 or 15 seconds, clearly trying to figure out what to do next. Finally, she turns to the audience, her professional mask trying to slip back into place, but cracking around the edges. Well, I guess we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. But everyone knows they won't be right back. Not really. You can't come back from something like that. Not in the same show, not with the same energy. The producers are probably scrambling to figure out what to do, whether to scrap the whole thing or try to salvage something from the wreckage. The audience starts to murmur as the lights shift, people turning to each other with wide eyes and shocked expressions. Everyone processing what they just witnessed. This wasn't entertainment. This wasn't a planned bit or a publicity stunt. This was real conflict, real hurt, real boundaries being set in real time. And that's the thing about moments like this. They're uncomfortable. They're messy. They don't tie up neatly with a bow. There's no music swell that makes everything okay. No commercial break that lets everyone reset and pretend nothing happened. There's just the aftermath, the fallout, the questions about who was right and who was wrong, and whether anyone was really right at all. What do you think? Was Brendan justified in walking off, or should he have stayed and worked it out? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And if you want to see more stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next one.